I wasn't supposed to see her there. A soup kitchen, a borrowed jacket, and my nephew holding her hand like he was afraid to let go. She told me she had ruined her own life. But something didn't add up. I had spent my career recognizing patterns, and this didn't look like bad decisions. It looked intentional. Taste, hardened crumbs of bread beside them, faded black tights with seam marks at the knees. The third Thursday of November. At 6 a.m, my little sister, Rachel, walking along the library line inside the social services center, holding my 8-year-old nephew Oliver's hand as if it were her lifeline. I didn't recognize him right away, because he wasn't someone I knew. My sister, who has been working as an accountant for a pharmaceutical company in Manhattan for 15 years. 6 years ago, she bought a waterfront summer villa in Connecticut. Last Christmas, she sent me photos of herself and Oliver smiling by the fireplace in a massive living room, surrounded by her husband Richard's antique collection. Now, in the December cold, a free meal awaited Rachel in the most remote part of New Haven. That dull, empty, lost look in her eyes, the weight she exuded, her cheekbones sunken and atrophied, loose skin along her neck, a general collapse in her body language, as if she were trying to ignore herself. Even when she tried to smile, that silent terror, that otherworldly angelic look flickered across her face. Marcus, me. Rachel, what are you doing here? I volunteered to deliver food every Thursday. It's the job of someone who dropped out of medical school to pursue a career in social work. Even though my heart rate was around 8.5 on the Richter scale, I kept my voice calm. Rachel froze for a moment. Her gaze avoided mine. The way she looked at Oliver, the way she stroked her son's hair back, was like a security commercial. Just lunch, Marcus. Today, we just need a little help. His speech trembled, long tremors like fragile glass. What is Richard doing? Rachel's eyes immediately filled with tears, but her blinking never faltered. She was in control, but I was trained in the healthcare field, in behavioral dynamics. These tears were a sign of suppressed pain. He's very busy, but don't tell me Richard has a car. Silence. Oliver swayed gently at your feet. Rachel, please, what's happening? This is the first time I've ever spoken to you without smiling. I pulled myself to a private corner next to the social welfare office tables. I subtly gestured for her to come up to her car. Rachel resisted briefly, then took Oliver's hand and followed me. After closing the doors, as the air conditioning started working, I turned to Rachel with Oliver buckled in the back seat, holding the sticky shortbread cookie I'd taken from the refrigerator. Talk to everyone. Don't hide anything. When did you get into this situation? Rachel held her head in her hands. 2 seconds. 3 seconds. Then, we live in the car, Marcus. The words came slowly, heavily weighted like a sinking into water. What? Richard sold the house 2 months ago. Without telling me. He just packed all my belongings in boxes and put them in the trunk of the car. He lied to me. He said the mortgage was too high, that he couldn't pay the debts, and that I was spending too much. Trembling in the knee, fingers clenching together. Did you check the accounts Richard gave you permission to use? No, he handles all the finances. He says I have a problem with my money. I'm irresponsible. I don't make good decisions. I'm extravagant on designer bags and pearl necklaces. A familiar system. A page from the gaslighting teacher's book. So to whom did he sell the house? To a holding company. He sold the house for $780,000, but Richard said all the money went to pay off my debts. The FBI agent inside the accountant has awakened. $780,000. That town in Connecticut, I knew those neighborhoods. It was supposed to be worth at least $950,000, maybe more. Oliver, you stay in the back seat, okay? Watch a cartoon for a few minutes. YouTube on my phone. Oliver's head was immediately turned towards the screen, the blue light illuminating his face. To Rachel. Does Richard have a car loan? No, he bought the car with cash. A Range Rover. An $85,000 Range Rover, and now he's driving it. He says he's making a lot of money. New projects. But he's keeping me and Oliver in the car. He gives us $35 a week. Just $35ers, Marcus. His hands were trembling. The tremors intensified. Where is my $162,000 retirement account? Do you know him? It was filmed in March. Richard said it was done for various reasons. Taxes, fines, but the documents are blurry, so I didn't question it. I've been an accountant for 26 years. I've been doing social work for 9 years. And I've heard this story 100 times. The same structure, the same pattern, the same result every time. identity theft, financial abuse, child neglect. Do you know where Richard lives? No, he tells me to ask him. He says I'll embarrass him. He's struggling with problems too. I have shortcomings. He needs to start a new life. So do I, she spoke. But it turned into an emotional outburst. I need to become stronger too. I need to be responsible. He can't feed me, clothe me, or shelter me so I can show these things. Oliver was still watching cartoons in the back seat. Rachel, how much do you know about teaching? The psychology of manipulation and control? Enough. But Richard said, nothing will change until I understand, until I see my own mistake. And I'm starting to believe it. There were no clear expectations at the beginning of the process. Everyone interpreted the situation according to their own circumstances. These interpretations did not converge on common ground. Different perspectives guided the same events. Some steps were deliberately delayed. This delay did not create problems in the short term, but it showed its effects in the long term. Progress became irregular. As the order broke down, uncertainty increased. Uncertainty made decision-making difficult. The decisions made offered temporary solutions. These solutions were not permanent. New situations arose. The old methods proved insufficient, and the process spontaneously evolved in another direction. 15 years ago, Rachel and I were sitting at the same family table while our father served 12 years in prison for investment fraud. We learned a lot about the secure legal system. Rachel, my sister who is now a therapist, had tried to teach us that. But sometimes, even the most knowledgeable people can fall into a trap within a manipulation network. Rachel, even though you don't want me to ask, as a doctor I'll tell you this. What Richard did wasn't just bad. It's a federal crime, multiple federal crimes, and I know how to prove it. A light flickered in his eyes for the first time. Not faith, perhaps hope. I have to trust you completely. Do you understand? Can you do that? Fear crossed his face. Richard said he'll take Oliver if I tell him. The judge will give him to him. I have documents proving I'm a bad mother. I have photos of us living in the car. He also knows people in the investment industry. They won't believe me. The fear he possessed, similar to the fear I felt, deciphered my own feelings. Tell me if you can trust me. A long silence. Oliver was still watching cartoons. Yes, said Rachel, her voice somewhere between a scream and a whisper. Yes, I trust you. That evening, I took Rachel and Oliver to a hotel. I paid for 3 nights. When Rachel answered the phone, the first number I had called was 212. My former partner at the FBI, David Chen. He currently works in the white-collar crime division. David, I want to ask you a favor. I am listening. It's personal, my sister. Identity theft, possible real estate fraud, financial manipulation, all related to her husband. Silence on the other end of the phone. Send me the address, account numbers, dates, everything. I'll start reviewing the financial data immediately. The second search was made to the Connecticut Real Estate Registry. I needed title documents for a sale that took place in November. The name was Rachel. Rachel Morrison Chen. Sale price, $780,000. An hour later, when I saw the list I'd received from the Social Security Administration, my hand trembled. Rachel has 19 credit card accounts in her name, 4 personal loans, 1 car loan. Total debt, $156,000. Rachel is my sister who has always been mindful of her budget. She taught me about saving money when we were children. The third call was made to the accounting firm where Rachel worked. Rachel Morrison, I'm looking for information about Chen. I'd like details about his retirement account. The female assistant was quick to help. According to our system, the retirement account was fully withdrawn in March, $162,000. Who received the check? Richard Chen, with an individual power of attorney document. There is a signed application in the file. Rachel's retirement aliasing it's over. The fourth call was made to David again. 19 credit cards in Rachel's name. Could the signatures be forged? It's possible. But it's hard to prove. Give me the account numbers. When evening came, David called back. All the cards were opened within the last 2 months. They're all registered to Richard's address. They were all activated from an IP address used by Richard. And Marcus Gore, the total amount spent on these cards altogether, an average of $4,000 per day. The nature of the game has become a little clearer. The fifth search, Meridian. This was done to investigate the property's tax records. The company was founded 2 weeks ago. Owner, Richard Morrison Chen. Chairman, Richard Morrison Chen. The sale of that villa was a cycle. The house was registered in Rachel's name. then bought by a shell company Richard had set up with a home loan, etc. Rachel's credit score plummeted while she remained liable, and Richard kept the money in his company. The sixth call was made to a private detective firm. Richard Morrison. You need to find a man named Chen. He's attractive, in his 50s, and lives in the New Haven area. I want to document where he goes and what he does. The detective got results 2 days later. Richard is seen in upscale hotel, receptions and high-speed entertainment, venues in central Manhattan, always with different women, always the one spending the money. A reception. Both of their hands and faces showed signs of imperfection after a long night of partying. The seventh call was made to a family law attorney. After describing Richard Chen's behavior, the lawyer gave a smile, a bitter but a smile. Rachel will get full custody, and she'll get every penny back, maybe even more. His hair needed a cut. His shirt was clean, but it was too small. There was worry and alertness in Oliver's eyes. A troubled look from the very beginning. Ever since a child feels truly safe in a home. I need to trust you completely, I told Rachel. Yes, she said that evening, her voice now filled with strength. Weak, but present. That week was the longest week of my life. I examined the financial data. I traced every instance of fraud. I had handwriting analysis done to prove the signatures were forgeries. I collected the lawyer's files who signed the confessions and gave them to David. David started the investigation. The phone rang on the morning of the 5th day. We caught him, said David. Financial fraud, identity theft, real estate fraud, child neglect. How fast? Tomorrow morning at 6 o'clock, we're going to the house address. The next morning at 6 a.m., the FBI arrived at his door. David sent the photos later. Richard is let out of the house in handcuffs, his head bowed, knowing it's over. There were other accounts involved. Other women. Other scams. It turned out Richard didn't choose just one victim. Yes, he chose Rachel. But there were other victims within the economic system. At the hotel, Rachel spoke with David and the 2 agents at 2 p.m. about everything. The manipulation, the forged documents, the threats, the 2 months she spent in the car with Oliver. Oliver was sitting with me in the lobby, eating the chocolate cake I'd ordered. Rachel stepped outside. There was a lightness in her entire body language. What happens now? He asked. Now, I said, we'll get your house back, and we'll make sure Richard and anyone else never hurt anyone again. Initially, everything proceeded cautiously. Risks were identified. Boundaries were clearly defined. However, over time, these boundaries loosened. This loosening went unnoticed because the consequences weren't immediately apparent. This delay created a false sense of complacency. This complacency reduced attention. Reduced attention led to more errors. These errors were perceived as minor. Their interconnectedness wasn't recognized. When the connections were made, the picture changed. It became clear that the problem didn't have a single source. The solution became complex, and the balance of the process was completely disrupted. The legal process moved much faster than I expected. With federal charges, FBI evidence, David's testimony about the money laundering operation, and Richard's lawyers advising him to plead guilty, the process unfolded much faster. Richard signed 4 pages at his first hearing. 42 pages. Every page is an accusation. Every line is evidence of Richard's systematic deception of Rachel. Yes, he had sold the house. Yes, he had opened the credit cards. Yes, he had stolen the retirement account. Yes, he had forged documents. Yes, he had seen his son live homeless and he had cared. The financial system has transformed. I sat in David's office and watched as volumes of files were unpacked. As the justice system worked, as Rachel's name was cleared, each of her credit cards was written off as a result of identity theft. Her retirement account was repaid from Richard's assets by court order. $162,000 was transferred to Rachel's account. The house sale was canceled as a fraudulent transaction. Richard received an 11-year federal prison sentence. There was no early release unless he exhibited bad behavior. It's a federal prison. The crimes were identity theft offenses, each of which could carry a sentence of up to 10 years on its own. But the lawyer's agreement combined them. 11 years. It would come out when Oliver was 19. By that point, Rachel Ma, if she found the strength, could have built a new life for herself. Of the villa was changed. Rachel Morrison Chen had it back. His name was reissued, his name appearing, in a row of documents that gleamed, like a symbol of freedom on blackboards, tax documents, and security codes. Following the cancellation of the real estate sale, the company was shut down. The business Richard had founded closed after 19 days. All its accounts were frozen. The recovered funds were given to Rachel as compensation. In addition, Richard's investment money was also recovered. The aforementioned $35,000 was traced back to various accounts he left behind, used for poker games and gambling operations. The court confiscated all of Richard's legal assets and ordered that $87,000 of them be given to Rachel as additional compensation. Total repayment, $249,000 plus interest, plus legal fees. In mid-November, Rachel and Oliver returned home. The villa's garden looked different 2 months later. The flowers had wilted, but the valuable furniture Richard had bought on shopping trips with another woman was still missing. But there was a house. The house was named Rachel. Oliver had a bedroom, a children's room, a proper shower, a proper refrigerator, a proper life. Rachel took 2 months' leave to return to school. The accounting firm manager seemed to understand the difficulties she had faced. On her first day back, the entire school staff gave her a standing ovation. The manager hugged Rachel. "You might have wanted to know," the manager said, glancing at me over his head. We thought Rachel was going through something. Personal problems. We had no idea how big it was. But Victor, my new partner who replaced David, it was actually Victor called me one day. "Marcus, I found something else. On Richard's computer. Other accounts." "What kind of accounts?" "Bank accounts. In Rachel's name, but controlled by Richard. And here's a trick. Richard uses these accounts in Rachel's name to scam other elderly women. The same methodology. The same manipulation. But different victims." My blood ran cold. "How many?" 12 so far. 12 women. Each one of Rachel's, a different variation of the story. Women whose homes were sold. Women whose pensions were stolen. Women living in the back of cars with their children. "Victor, record this. And we're going to do some legal engineering right now. Richard's sentence will be increased. Federal residents will keep him alive until he's fit for it." Victor remained silent. "Marcus, these new charges are 23 separate fraud cases. Each one could carry a sentence of up to 5 years. "Yes," I said. "I know that." Richard's sentence was increased from 11 years to 34 years. The number of accredited offenses rose from 42 to 187. 27 separate charges. That meant life imprisonment. Richard, in his 50s, would be 84 when he got out if he ever got out. Other victims also found justice. Real estate fraud, credit card fraud, identity theft, child neglect. Every accusation had a victim. Every victim had a story, but now the outcomes of their stories were different. Official institutions had taken action. In mid-January, Rachel and Oliver threw a birthday party in their garden to celebrate 9-year-old Oliver's 9th birthday and a living world once again. The house was in Rachel's garden, where she had planted rose bushes 5 years earlier. The roses had survived and bloomed with bright red flowers. Oliver, wearing a Superman cape, was running with his schoolmates. He was laughing. He was really laughing. Inside him was a quiet voice, a child's voice devoid of any trace of fear. Rachel arrived with a new man, the university principal, the result of a therapist's recommendation a few months ago. He's good-looking, polite, and doesn't waste his money. He stood next to the grill while the hamburger was cooking. "Thank you," said Rachel, approaching me quietly. "For what?" "For everything. For not giving me away. For not abandoning me. You are my sister," I said. "But most people would do that. They would accept Oliver. They would follow you. But you, what is it that makes you so brave, so determined?" I grabbed him by the shoulder. "That's what family does. Even if one of us spends 7 years in prison, the other will be the one to remind everyone what family is. Oliver, play, laugh, and act like a normal child again." "What was the hardest part?" Rachel asked one night, sitting on the veranda, sipping her warm tea. "It wasn't about sleeping in the car. It wasn't even about hunger. What was it then? To consider myself guilty. When Richard was blaming everything on me, when he was convincing me I was wrong, someone needed to stand there and say, 'No, it's not your fault. It's his.' But to look in the mirror, to see my own innocence, someone needed to tell me, 'How do you feel now?'" Rachel took a deep breath. "Stronger. I'm still scared sometimes. I still have nightmares, but I know he's fighting. I know he's fighting for me. He did everything he could. He hasn't forgotten me." She wiped her eyes, a sweet kind of tear. "And Oliver knew that I was important to him. Even in a car, but he loved me. And I loved him too. That wasn't the hardest part. The hardest part was him not believing me." At the end of October, Victor called back. Richard's appeals lawyer is appealing the decision. "What kind of appeal?" "He's going to fail. The evidence is very strong. But he'll try anyway. Richard is talking about a deal that would reduce his sentence to 25 years, and get him released. But that would make the court see its verdict clearly. Has the appeal failed? Yes, the court rejected the recording within 5 minutes. There's no other angle. Richard will serve 34 years. In early December, Rachel's lawyer called me. All credit cards and all fraudulent accounts have been erased from the records. Retirement funds have been fully repaid. The house is entirely in Rachel's name. Richard has no claim whatsoever. He has lost custody. Oliver's management is entirely under Rachel's control. Rachel's legal battle was over, but the psychological battle was just beginning. At the end of November, Rachel attended a seminar at her accounting firm on recognizing financial abuse. The principal called Rachel to the panel. "Rachel, please share your experience." Rachel stood before 200 people. She spoke. She talked about her feelings, her moments of fear, her nightmare, her recovery. She spoke and told the other women, if you recognize these signs, unquestioning, being told you're spending too, much not seeing the receipts, your feeling of insecurity, eroding a little more each day, then you're not alone. And there are escape routes, but someone has to fight for you, and I am that someone. I've decided to dedicate my whole life to helping other women recognize these signs and find their escape route. When the performance ended, 200 people gave a standing ovation. In early December, we had Oliver's birthday party in the garden, surrounded by red roses. As the sun began to set, the whole garden shimmered in a golden glow. "Oliver, I brought you a chocolate cake. It's his favorite, because Richard refused to let him have it when we lived in the apartment. Sugar is bad for you. It's your responsibility to take care of yourself." Now Oliver has chocolate on his tongue and a smile in his eyes. Rachel sat next to him and hugged Oliver. "This is the best birthday ever," said Oliver. "From where?" "Because you're here. Because Aunt Marcus is here. Because the house is here, and Dad can't come here." Rachel hugged him even tighter. The garden was full of other families, music, smiles, and life. In mid-January, Rachel called me. "Do you think I'll ever stop looking back?" There was still apprehension, still fear in his voice. "Probably not immediately. Trauma doesn't heal according to a specific schedule, but it heals over time. Therapy will help, and knowing that it's been contained will be comforting. I still have nightmares. Richard comes back, takes Oliver, and I lose everything. These are just nightmares. The truth is, you're home. Oliver is safe. There's nothing Richard can do. He'll be here for 34 years. Rachel remained silent. "I know it's rational, but fear isn't rational. I know. Marcus, do you think I'll ever be able to smile with my own name? Like nothing else? Maybe, but right now, the best thing you can do is get up every day and look after Oliver. Feed him, give him security. He can see that smile. He can get better. And together you can be a little stronger, every day, every month, every year. Do you know what I think was the worst part? It wasn't sleeping in the car. It wasn't even hunger. What was it? To give faith. To believe in me. To believe everything he says. Yes, it wasn't your fault." Rachel cried. An emotional, furious cry. The scream she'd been holding inside for months. "What's the best thing I can do?" "Fight for other women. Help women like her who get no other results." Rachel seemed to find a little more strength in this idea. In March, Rachel partnered with a local agency on financial abuse. She began offering training programs on obtaining signatures, document verification, how bank accounts are compromised, and what identity theft is. Every group she trained consisted of women with children. Rachel looked at them, saw through their eyes, and spoke to them. "If you see these symptoms, it means there's a problem. That means you're being monitored. You are not alone. There is a way out, but you have to fight." At the end of June, Rachel was invited to speak at a conference of the organization she came from in Massachusetts. She told her story to 200 people in a hall. Manipulation, nightmares, life. The speech ended with a 10-minute standing ovation. A woman came onto the stage and hugged Rachel. "You woke me up," she said. "My husband was starting to act exactly like Richard. When I listened to you, I saw my own situation. I left today. I'm starting with my children. Thank you." Rachel cried. At the end of October, Richard's final court hearing took place. The sentence was final. The appeal was rejected. 34 years, definitive. Rachel made a statement outside the courthouse. Richard Morrison Chen was convicted for crimes against his sister, his son, and many other women. Justice, yes, it came late, but it finally did. But I'm not here just to see Richard convicted. I'm here to wake up other women. If you too are a woman who has been controlled, manipulated, and had your money stolen, know that you are not alone, and there is a way out. The press had taken photographs. Rachel's face is determined and strong. Rachel and Oliver returned home in early November. The house is still blooming with red roses. Oliver is still strong. Rachel is still recovering. But she knew he wouldn't give up. That's how families do it. We fight, we protect, we never give up on each other. At first glance, the situation seemed ordinary. This ordinariness instilled confidence. No one felt the need for in-depth investigation. Overlooked details accumulated. This accumulation gradually created pressure. The pressure began to be felt, but its source was unclear. Guesses were made. These guesses did not match. Misdirections occurred. The right steps were delayed. Delays created new problems. Problems piled up. The process approached becoming uncontrollable, and an unexpected breakdown occurred. In mid-May, on a sunny Saturday morning, we had a birthday party for Oliver in Rachel's garden. He was turning 10. He had transformed from a child, living in a car a year earlier, to a child who played on the school football team, had friends, and whose smile had returned. The red roses had bloomed as brightly and vibrantly as they had 5 years ago. Oliver still wears the Superman cape, but this time it's not from a fairy tale. It's his own choice. Rachel stood beside him, cooking hamburgers with her new boyfriend. It wasn't David. David had fallen for someone else. But this new guy was a polite engineer, and he seemed to have a genuine interest in Oliver. "Thank you," Rachel said as she approached me. "For what?" "Because you didn't leave me. Always say that. Because you are my family." Rachel wiped her eyes. Now these were tears of having lived, of having fought. Not sadness, but gratitude. "You know, I noticed something really strange," Rachel said, sitting up and looking at me. "The hardest moments weren't when Richard was trying to control me. The hardest part was believing him. Feeling guilty, acting like I was really the one at fault. Yes, that's the nature of gaslighting. It convinces you that you are to blame, but you came. You showed the documents. The court told the truth. And finally I understood that I was not guilty. He was a hunter. He chose me because I am kind, trustworthy, and hardworking. That's a weakness of mine, isn't it? To believe the world? Yes, but it's also your strength. It makes you someone who refuses to live with something so terrible." At the end of January, Rachel wrote an article for the magazine about the psychology of financial abuse and escape routes. The article was the most read headline for 3 months. A copy of Richard's letter from prison was leaked online through court records. "I know I misled you," it read. "But I'm just a weak man. It's my fault. But tell me I didn't hurt anyone else. I beg your forgiveness." Rachel declined to respond, citing legal advice. Forgiveness is something inherent. It cannot be compelled, and Rachel wasn't ready to forgive yet. Perhaps he would never forgive her, and that was okay. In March, Oliver's school launched a project. Who is my hero? Oliver wrote the essay. About Aunt. Aunt Marcus became an FBI agent and saved my mother, it read. My father was a bad man. He tried to steal my mother. He stole the house. He stole the money. But there was Aunt Marcus. She believed in my mother. She believed in me. She fought, and she won. After reading the essay, the teacher gave Oliver a yellow card. "This is the true definition of heroism," he said. Oliver received his school achievement certificate. Rachel stuck it on the refrigerator. Victor called in early April. "Marcus, that's good news about Richard's other victims. I can say that most of them got their money back. The courts confiscated Richard's assets and distributed them as compensation. 12 women, 12 stories, 12 new beginnings. How much is the total? $2 million, $1,200,000. That's the amount recovered from the money Richard defrauded, manipulated, and ruined their lives." This information leaked from Richard's prison records. He knew about it too. In mid-May, Rachel began running a training program at the beauty establishment. Every Monday evening, women who recognized the signs of financial abuse would gather. One night, a woman cried in Rachel's office, "My wife is exactly as you described. Unsigned documents, secret accounts. She tells me I'm spending too much. But I know I'm not the one spending." Rachel took the woman's hand. "You are not alone, and there is a way out, but you have to fight. Can you do that?" "Yes," the woman said quietly but firmly. "Yes, I can." At the end of June, the court rejected Richard's final appeal. The 34-year sentence was final. There was no other option. Richard was to spend 34 years in a Pennsylvania federal prison. He would be 84 years old when his term ended. This practically meant a life sentence. In early July, Rachel called me. I want to do something. I want to write a book. My story, how I survived, how other women can be helped. I want to publish it. Yes, I said. Write it. The story needs to be told. This is the story other women need. Rachel finished the book in September. It's titled The Entrusted Story: Escape from Financial Abuse. The publisher said that 50,000 copies were sold in the first week. At the end of October, Rachel and I were sitting in the garden, drinking warm tea. Oliver was playing. With his friends laughing freely, Rachel asked. No, trauma is a herd, but healing is a herd. And you are healing. Oliver is healing. You are healing together. I still have nightmares sometimes. I know, but I'm opening up. I'm laughing. I'm working. I'm living. Yes, you are doing it. And you are doing it for many more women. Rachel leaned on my shoulder. Thank you. For what? For fighting with me. For standing by me. For not leaving me. For loving me. I've always loved you. And I'll always fight for you. Because you're my sister. And that's what family does. It was impossible to summarize what happened at this point in a single sentence. Because each detail was not independent of the previous one. What happened was like parts of a chain. Some parts were clearly visible. Others only made sense as time passed. Therefore, instead of drawing hasty conclusions, it was necessary to look at the process as a whole. Looking back, it became clear that moments that initially seemed insignificant were actually crucial. Small choices had a greater impact than expected. Silent moments left a stronger mark than spoken words. Not everything was resolved through conversation. Some things were accepted as they were. Others were left behind. As time went on, reactions changed. Initial emotions gave way to a calmer assessment. This assessment didn't mean approving of everything. It simply meant seeing things as they were, neither exaggerating nor ignoring them. Not every story ends with a clear conclusion. Some stop at a certain point. This story stopped right there, without a sharp line being drawn, but without losing its meaning. The impact of what happened was silent but lasting, and perhaps this was the truest ending.